Welcome to all of you. We are glad to have this session that is focusing on the power of our network, on how we support our members to respond to the crisis that has been created by the devastating war in Ukraine. Honestly, it's very hard to find the right words to describe what our colleagues in Ukraine have experienced and continue to experience. What is less hard is to describe the lessons, the lesson of resilience that they have demonstrated in all these 9 months, and the dedication to the mission that we all share, not only those that are now today with us, but in our network and beyond, to support children, to support families, and to support those that are working with the families and children in the services. We will be spending today 2 hours when we will share much of the work that has been put in the past 9 months into mobilizing the expertise and the network mechanisms in ISSA, which represent a rich resource for all of us who are involved in finding solutions, the quality solutions to the challenging context that children internally displaced or refugees are confronting with together with their caregivers. The way that we are going to spend these 2 hours is going to be split into certain sessions, not yet, please. We are going to have an overview of the framework of action that we as a network have employed from the very first month of the since the war started, and the work that has been coordinated by the ISSA Secretariat, so that we have an understanding of what has been the direction of travel that we agreed upon, and what has been done. And we have invited a few members to share an example of the intervention and the support that they have put into action in their respective countries. We have been active not only in Ukraine, supporting directly our members there, but also in all the neighboring countries, and some of them even not necessarily being neighbors. We hope that this will be a rich pool of knowledge and of expertise that you can tap into, and that will inspire you, perhaps if you have not yet engaged into specific actions in your country. This could show that there is a lot of support that can be provided through peer learning or peer support from member to member, and also that we can be a very rich platform for such kind of cooperation. We will have 4 countries that will contribute to our discussion today. We will have 2 presentations from Romania and Poland, and then we will have a very brief intervention from Ukraine, as it has been quite difficult for colleagues that we plan to have today to participate because of the electricity cut. And we will also have colleagues from Armenia who will share from their experience, as they have been also through hardship during the war in Nagorno-Karabakh. So I think that this would be the food for thought and for discussion, but in the time that will be allocated for discussions, feel free also to share from your experience, from the work that you have done, or also to put questions or to learn more from what colleagues that will present will have inspired you to learn more from. So this is the plan for today, and I hope that everybody will have found something that would enrich their thinking and their programs. Without no further ado, I will let now Liana to introduce, as I was saying, an overview of the work that has been coordinated, the framework of action, and the work that has been coordinated by ISSA Secretariat in the past month, together with Francesca Colombo, our program manager in ISSA. Liana, the floor is yours, the virtual floor.
I will take the Zoom microphone. Thank you, Mihaela. And it is an honor for me to speak today. Hello to everyone, and thank you so much for joining. As Mihaela said, from the ISSA Secretariat, we have, from day 1 of the war, jumped into action, first and foremost, contacting our members in all the countries affected, especially in Ukraine and the neighboring countries where refugees were arriving. And I think going to the next slide for our colleagues, what we realized was that actually networks are very well placed to respond to crises. Of course, there are crises around the world caused by wars, by climate degradation, and we have connected with our colleagues from different continents, also learning from their experiences responding to various emergencies, including humanitarian situations. So we have also realized that there is a lot to build upon. We have members in all the countries affected. We already have existing mechanisms for delivery functioning as a network, and also a huge potential, a huge set of resources, technical resources and know-how within the Secretariat, but especially among our members on the ground. So building on all this, we were able to use past experiences to scale solutions quickly. For instance, the work around non-formal provision like playgroups, but also the experiences of our member organizations in the war after the breakup of former Yugoslavia. So there's a lot in our network that we could build upon. You will hear later from colleagues in Armenia. Having our members on the ground, we are in a good position to shine light on the most vulnerable populations. So we can understand better where the needs are, especially those groups that are perhaps neglected by the response of other agencies. And as a network, we have reached out to partners at UNICEF, partners at other international organizations like War Child, for instance, or Save the Children. And together with them, wherever possible, we joined forces, also channeling support directly to our members. But together with them, we also join our voices to keep early childhood on the agenda, on all agendas, the agendas of the local governments, but also the agendas of funders and of UN agencies. And we realized that actually in all emergency situations until now around the world, comparing the amount of funding and activities that are focusing on protection, nutrition, health, supplies in general, the amount of funds spent on those areas is much, much greater than what is focused on early learning, early care, the young children. By comparison, only 20% of actions, emergency actions in general in conflicts and emergencies around the world go towards young children. So we have been advocating that early learning and early care should be as important as all these other areas. Not to say that the other areas are not important, but young children's learning and development should also be prioritized, especially as we know the effect of trauma on young children if not addressed. So using our network, we've been very, very active also in advocacy. And also, as we learned this metaphor recently, we were able to activate the muscle memory for exchange and collaboration, which already existed in our network before. Here you see, if you scan, you will get a link to the Network Advantage report that looked at the power of networks in general, but also to respond to crisis. It's available on the ISSA website, and we invite you to have a look, also to understand the role that networks can play responding to emergencies. Going to the next slide, after contacting our members and after spending time consulting in the Secretariat with the ISSA board, we have articulated and fine-tuned over the weeks and months since then 5 areas, 5 streams of action for ISSA as a network. And this very much reflects the priorities that our members on the ground have. and they revolve around strengthening capacity of the early childhood practitioners to provide psychosocial support, psychological first aid, to work with trauma-informed approaches. We have seen that this is a big need both in Ukraine and in neighboring countries where families take shelter. The second area is to empower the capacity of our members on the ground so that they can support at municipality level the local governments to have a strategic response, both in the short term and the medium term. And you will see that these two priority areas revolve around capacity of our members, of practitioners, of local governments. And at ISSA, we have the strong belief that it is this local capacity that needs to be strengthened. We need to empower those on the ground rather than flying in experts from other countries. There is huge capacity already available, and we need to strengthen that capacity further. In the third area, you see that we prioritize inclusion, respect for diversity and equity. We need to join forces to make sure that these are key ingredients in all policies and practices that respond to the needs of children and families. In today's world, this is hugely important. And we have been active as a network for a long time, and now we need to strengthen our work even more in this area. The fourth area is about us as a network facilitating learning across borders, learning across sectors, and today's event is an illustration of how we do that. And the last area is, of course, supporting efforts of reconstruction, and these need to start on the first day of the war, and we have already done everything we could to channel such support so that we continue to support the work of our members. As you know, we have 2 member organizations in Ukraine. At least one is representing today, and we hope the other will be able to join as well, electricity permitting. We have the Ukrainian Step-by-Step Foundation that works across the country. Yulia Naida is with us, and we're very, very glad you could join, Yulia. And we have the Blaho Center based in Uzhgorod, that is an NGO working at community level, especially serving Roma communities, but now more and more internally displaced persons that either transition through Uzhgorod or stay longer. So these are the 5 areas we've been working on, and within this, my colleague Francesca will give more examples. Concretely what we have done especially in number 1. And I will end by saying that we continue to link to the work of other partners. And we see ISSA's work as a piece in a larger puzzle of various agencies doing their best to offer support. And as much as we can, we try to fill in gaps and make sure that we work in synergies. Responding to such needs, one organization alone cannot do much. But if we join forces and if we stay connected and coordinate our work with the work of our partners, we can accomplish much more for children, for families, for all the efforts of reconstruction. And we have been really happy to partner not just with UNICEF and War Child as an example, but also with funders, and as well with the kind of organizations that give in-kind support, for instance, books, children's storybooks, laptops that we've helped channel on the ground. So we will, and funds, of course, as much as possible. We stay committed to continue this work, and we are very thankful to our current partners, our future partners and supporters, and especially to our members on the ground. We are very, very proud of their work, and we all look forward to hearing them later today. So back to you, Mihaela and Francesca.
Thank you so much, Liana. Since we have a quite busy agenda, I will quickly give the floor to Francesca to just showcase some of the activities that have been filling this puzzle, these 5 streams of action they are ongoingly unfolding. It's something that I think it will take quite some time to fulfill completely. So we have started the work, and in each of the 5 streams of actions, we are adding every month, every year. Next year will continue definitely even more intensive with that kind of those kind of activities that will fulfill our objective under each of the action streams. So Francesca, share with our colleagues what we have been so busy doing in the past month, and how this can also be a source of inspiration or of learning for our colleagues who joined us today.
Yes, thank you, Mihaela, and thank you, Liana. And I will just focus on 3 of these stream of action, the ones that we have really worked a lot. The first one is about what Liana already said. It's about the strengthening the capacity at local and national level, especially capacity of professionals. So we're talking about early childhood practitioner, professional that are in daily contact with children, families in Ukraine or in neighboring countries. So we really activate all the trainers that our ISSA members know on the ground to train them. So early in May, we developed together with World Child Holland and with ISSA member Amna, previously Refugee Trauma Initiative, this training of trainers on psychological and psychosocial first aid and trauma recovery and informed practices, with the idea of providing trainers on the ground with the skills and competencies to support children, families, but also to support themselves. So it's a kind of self-care for professionals, not just professionals living in Ukraine, but also professionals that have to work with these children and families. And we train already around 100 master trainers in different countries. You can see on the slides. So we're talking about members in Bulgaria, in Czech Republic, in Hungary, in Moldova, in Romania, in Poland, in Slovakia, and in Ukraine. And we are going to have a 4th cohort of trainers next week. So the number is increasing, because the idea is really to bring this knowledge on the ground in all the countries that are in a way receiving refugees or they are dealing with this type of issue. So, but we don't just provide the training, because we know that a 3 days training is not sufficient. So this community, we want to build really a community of trainers that are supported all along their paths, because the idea is that we provide the knowledge, and then they need to design they need to adapt the knowledge to their national context and design their training in order, in a kind of a cascade model, to train themselves, early childhood practitioner and professional on the ground. So after having the training, we provide trainers with materials that were translated in all the languages of the trainers. It's a package of materials. So we have, for example, the recording of the training, we have PPTs, we have a training guide that clearly gives clear indication to the trainer how to adapt the content and how to use the content in their training. And also we are it's like a process going on, because we translate already some materials that Mihaela will mention afterwards, but we are still going to translate more materials in order to provide them with a full package of resources that they can use. And after giving them the resources, we are also organizing, we are still organizing a learning exchange session between all the trainers that participate in the training. Because we know that it's very important for this community to meet, to exchange lesson learned, and also to share their experiences while implementing the training on the ground. And we are also providing individual coaching sessions to the country teams of trainers that have already started implementing this type of training on the ground. So the idea is really to bring together all these people and give them all the possibility to have the biggest knowledge they can have to support families and children and professionals on the ground. Can we move to the next slide, please? The second stream of action that Liana was mentioning is about the possibility and opportunity to provide capacity building also to at institutional level locally. So we're talking about municipalities, and what we did in this case was to use the Primo Kids approach that ISSA already piloting in countries like Romania and Slovenia in the past few years. ISSA has the license from the Jacob Foundation for using this type of approach. And so what we are doing is to give our members the capacity to provide themselves technical assistance to local authorities with the idea of building a responsive and integrated early childhood system on the ground. We are supporting our members in Romania, especially to work with 50 municipalities that are welcoming refugees. And we are going to support our members in Hungary, in Poland, in Slovakia, and Ukraine in the next few months to support municipality on the ground. At the same time, what we are doing under this stream of action is to give ISSA members funding or the opportunity to setting up for non-formal services, welcoming EDPs, children, families, and also refugees, children, families. So what we do, we try to strengthen the capacity of our members on the ground. We provide them with funding to equip the centers or the shelters in the case of Ukraine. And also we provide assistance to the staff. We have many examples of this. For example, with the support of War Child Holland, we have been equipping and supporting the development of activities in 5 play apps in Ukraine and in 3 Primo apps in Romania. And we are going to hear later on today about the wonderful example of Spinkas in Poland, where they set up 28 alternative in kindergartens. And we have also play hubs in Slovakia. Next slide. And about action stream 4, this one is more about the opportunity to use ISSA network mechanism of being a community of ISSA members to share news and information and resources inside our network, but also outside for everybody who is interested and who is looking for resources that can help professional practitioners on the ground to respond to the Ukrainian crisis. So, as I already said, we facilitate this type of learning exchanges among members, not just among the team of trainers that we train, but also among ISSA members that are interested and want to join the Ukrainian response. We have a wonderful web page that is called Support for Ukraine, where you can find lots of resources, and they are easily accessible, and they're also divided in categories. So you can easily look for the resources that are more relevant for you. And also we try to portray the work of our members through different articles that are published on our website or also on our social media channels. Here you can see some of them. Next slide, please. And then we had already 2 webinars, and we developed a video that now I would like to ask our colleagues to share. This video is about a kind of collection of testimonies from our ISSA members involved in the Ukrainian response, and I have to say that it's very powerful.
Ми нашу школу підготовки ромських дітей до школи переробили повністю для прийняття нашого народу ромського. І з першого числа цього місяця ми почали приймати наших ромів-біженців з Харкова і з інших міст.
Розпочали свою роботу в західних регіонах України, куди були евакуйовані діти та їх сім'ї. Ми співпрацювали з вихователями, для того, щоб підготувати їх для роботи з дітьми та батьками в умовах надзвичайної ситуації, обумовленої війною. Готуючи тренінги для вихователів, ми використовували матеріали, які брали на платформі Міжнародної асоціації Step by Step та ресурси ЮНІСЕФ.
We organize Primo Hub playing activities for refugee children transiting Romania, while our past experience with Primo kids can be used at community level to support designing services for refugee families remaining in Romania. We also strengthen the capacity of teachers to best accommodate Ukrainian children attending our classes and to create inclusive contexts.
In Bulgaria, the program focuses on supporting children and families who fled the conflict by provision of humanitarian aid, information, and specialized services for children.
We share with the ISSA Network our resources and experience working during the Nagorno-Karabakh War, when we supported a large number of refugee families in early learning corners.
We recently developed a brand new webpage hosted on the ISSA website. This page curates the most relevant resources in different languages to ensure that it is both accessible and useful to our members working with children, families, and learning centers.
We organize regular online exchanges with our members in Ukraine and with members in the countries that receive refugees, so that every child and family affected by the war receives the long-term support as they need.
Well, this was the video that I think gave an overview of what has happened, and it's true that I think we will have to do a next one with even more recent actions that have happened in the past month. The work is evolving with every month, though you could understand at least who were the beats of actions that in the first 6 months have been already put into place. And I'm very glad to see Eleonora from Uzhgorod that managed to join us today. To complete the presentation that we have had from our end in the Secretariat to give an overview, I will let Liana to close the overview and to just mention that there has been also a lot of lessons. There have been a lot of lessons that we learned on the way, and the rich cooperation that we have had and the very fluid context in which we operated, but also the attention that has been paid by different partners and organizations internationally, regionally, or on the ground, has made us reflect a lot of what's our mission and our role as a network in action.
Thank you, Mihaela. After that, we will hear from our members. So I will be very brief to allow more time for them. If we can have back the slides. As Mihaela said, there are many lessons already, and we also see the remaining challenges. We will share with you the recording and the PowerPoint. However, just to highlight, we see a need to prioritize more interventions that focus on child development. In other words, to combine efforts of a humanitarian response with development work. They need to go hand in hand, and we need to move beyond focusing only on safety and security and health and nutrition, but also to address early learning and early care. We also, again, need to empower those who work with young children, the organizations also on the ground, and at the same time to invest in country level expertise and use that expertise that already exists there. There are also obviously gaps in funding. Money is not always going to where quality can be easily scaled up. And sometimes we see, sadly, that there is not sufficient focus on the most vulnerable groups. For instance, the Roma refugees that are now primarily in Hungary. At the same time, funding is slow to get to the ground. So there is a delay in activities that can start, and the needs are obviously enormous. And looking at the next slide and the last one from our end, from the Secretariat, we have articulated a few key messages, and we are very active in sharing these key messages in every possible way, not just in our continent, but also on the global level to inform responses to other emergencies around the world. The same, to strengthen the organizations and systems on the ground, to include early learning, early care in responses, also to be flexible, to adapt approaches that are flexible and nimble and be able to tailor these to the needs of families and children. It is very important to focus on the quality of programs. It is not sufficient to say X number of children went through a center. We need to pay attention what happens in that center, how are children supported, especially with trauma-informed approaches. And finally, to pay attention to the most vulnerable children and families. And with this, I will end from our overview, and back to you, Mihaela. We're all eager to listen to our members.
Thank you, Liana. It just shows that we've tried to mobilize funding, knowledge, expertise, experience from across the countries to build on what's already existing. But there is much to do, and we also know that there is a lot to reflect upon. We find ourselves in a kind of new situation where we need to build. I mean, pandemic already has helped us learn a lot of things about ourselves, our work, and how we can adapt to disruptive context. But this has came as an even stronger challenge on how we can create also a network of solidarity and support. And I think that the examples that we will bring today and the video that we shared with you also showed much perhaps it cannot be seen and much is not necessarily in the video or even in the articles that we have put on our website to feature the work of the members. It has been a fantastic cooperation that happened and mutual support between member organizations in Ukraine and those in the neighboring country from the very first weeks of the war. And that also impressed a lot and mobilized us even more into keeping this network of support live and feed it with meaningful actions. The whole framework that we've developed was informed by the needs that we learned from the members on the ground, where the big gaps are and where much of the support is needed and how we can already tap into our expertise. Now it's time to invite our colleagues who have been fantastic in positively responding to our invitation to share from their work already on the ground. And we promise that we will have 4 organizations talking today. As I saw that Eleonora from Blaho in Uzhgorod is with us in Ukraine, and I know that the connection there, the electricity might come and go. I think it would be perhaps appropriate to give her first the floor. And please use the translation function in the little globe that you should have on your bottom of the screen. Eleonora, yes, you're with us, and we're so glad to see you. We've invited Eleonora to share a bit from the work that has been carried out in Uzhgorod, it's hard to really say in a few words what she has been doing and her organization, the challenges that they have had in using the premises that initially were organizing activities for children into shelters, in transforming actually everything that they were doing into a humanitarian effort, but not forgetting that children do deserve to be cared for and be provided with quality learning materials and learning opportunities. And that has stayed at the core of the mission of their organization. Roma and non-Roma in the end, as there were lots of families that were coming to Uzhgorod. At the same time, Eleonora and her organization is hosting the Romania ISSA Network, as they have organized previous to the war a lot of activities that were destined for Roma children, and mobilized a network of professionals that are supporting Roma children and their families in Ukraine. So the mission that was before the war has been even more stressed during the time of the war, catering this time not only Roma children, but all children that needed support. Eleonora, I think we just would like to learn a little bit from you. What has been, let's say, the highlight of the work that you have been put in this month, and what are the highest priorities that you see for the moment?
Доброго дня всім.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for appreciating the circumstances we are working in. And from the morning, there was no electricity, and I could only use the mobile internet, also with interruptions. Only now the electricity and internet has been provided. As Michaela said, well, they could switch it off any moment. So I'm not sure whether my colleague Oksana was able to connect because she had the presentation. If she was unable to connect, because some parts of the city were connected, some were not. Therefore, my partner might not have been able to join. Anyway, thank you, Michaela, for giving a brief overview of our work before the work in early development of Roma children and preparing the Roma children for school. That was our basic area. But when the Russian troops invaded our country, when they invaded Ukraine, then we had to suspend our operations because we did not understand whether we will be coming under fire, and temporarily we suspended our work, and only on the 1st of March we relaunched our activities, but we have reformatted our work from the school, primary school, but for the preschool, working for work with the internally displaced persons. The discrimination which was latent, it became apparent, became evident. The Roma community were refused the accommodation. So they had to stay in the railway stations with the babies, and that Roma children have many families, 3 to 8 children per family, and all of them was sleeping on the ground, actually. And I realized that we had to do something very urgently. We opened a shelter for them where we were able to receive very many people. And we are very grateful to the Renaissance Foundation because it provided the funds for the rent. And we're also grateful to the REYN and ISSA Network because they provided their support and they continue providing support. We, over that time, starting from March up to today, we were able to receive 1,250 people, for which we provided the accommodation, free 3-time meals, the hygienic means and everything they needed. We also have 2 psychologists working with children. The children are traumatized. Some of them are unable to speak, and they're completely frozen, and when the child sees a missile coming, this is they're terrified. Therefore, it takes a lot of work from the psychologists with children, but also with their adult family members. In our shelter, we have 3 so with the children that work to us, we do the work to provide some primary school education for them. So we continue the development work. We're using art therapy and psychological support is provided. And this is a comprehensive approach in our shelter we're working not only with the Roma children. We're not a closed community. We're also having Ukrainians and Georgians. So we're open to everyone. We want to show that Roma people are open to everybody. If they don't receive us, we are receiving everyone. In June, we reopened the preschool preparation and the early development program for Roma children, for the children which we had in our program before the war. We also provide food packages for the people who cannot live in our shelter for lack of accommodation. So they live elsewhere in compact communities. We help them with food. We provide our moral and psychological support to them.
Thank you, Eleonora. I think that, everybody can understand how overwhelming and comprehensive complex you're taking care of, and how difficult it must be to keep the balance, but also take care of yourself and your colleagues in your organization to carry all these different types of activities that are targeting different groups of different ages, and how to keep up work, but also a lot of funding, and ensure that nobody's left out and nobody's neglected. I saw that Julia raised her hand. Julia, please.
Very, very briefly. First and foremost, I would like to thank the ISSA Secretariat for the fact that on February 25, there was a letter which provided support to us. And starting on February 25, the ISSA Secretariat and the whole ISSA network has been cooperating with us. We're really grateful for that. We appreciate it. We are grateful on behalf of our moms and our children. We're thankful for your care. We have lots of emotions. Today, we're implementing very good projects with the support of UNICEF and other entities, using all the materials provided to us by ISSA, which is really very important, especially now.
It also can give support to children and their parents, and the materials that ISSA is developing. ISSA and other organizations, they help teachers, common teachers without psychological or any other special education, to deal with the situation using simple things, using simple rules, and clear words. They give support to the kids and their families. Also, this support is being given in the shelters, at the bus stops, at the grocery stores, just everywhere where teacher or caregiver meets a kid. So your contribution to the future of Ukrainian kids is very valuable and huge, and even more to the future of Ukrainian parents who believe that teachers and educators are always on their children's side. Thank you very much, everyone and each of you, for such a huge support. We are not talking about the support being paid. Money is not important in this situation. Your hearts and your letters every time are important. Liana, Francesca, Zoya, and Yeva, and just everyone. We are with you, and we are with you, and all together we will win. And like Liana started her speech from the word that we are strong because we are the whole network, and that is true. And thanks to that, we can get this support. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much, Julia. I think it's hard to keep our emotions. I think everything that we have done is from the heart to heart. Besides being professionals, we like to think we are warm professionals, and we will be there wherever and whenever you will be needing us. And we like to think that whatever we have done, it has reached those who need it the most, because we know how hard it has been and how hard it is. We will hear colleagues from other countries talking, but we know that there is no comparison between what you are going through and what colleagues in the neighboring countries are going through. We have been honored to have participants in all our activities, in the trainings we have had, and I have to say, you've brought fantastic professionals to the trainings that we have carried out. We've been very proud actually of that, and we have thought that such valuable human resources are there that we definitely need to support. We have been touched also by the way that you have been restlessly supporting your professionals in the countries, how you have mobilized yourself to keep the network of practitioners empowered and resilient in such hard times. I think we've done little for comparing with what you have done in the country. And if there is a sense of guilt of us being where we are, and you being where you are, it's something that we will not be able to overcome, but by trying to do everything that we can in supporting you. Well, I know that for everybody, the intervention from colleagues in Ukraine has brought a very authentic feeling of how difficult it is, but also how unique, I would say, is the relationship and the partnerships and the support that we have provided in this period. We will continue doing it, that rest assured. And I think that the more that we will connect not only our souls and hearts, but also our knowledge and our expertise, and distribute it and equip all those that need this kind of support, the more impact it will have, not only now. It's not only about short term. It's not only about a quick fix. It's about how we rebuild and how we set up a very sound architecture of expertise that can take over this work for the years to come. And I think of that we are quite confident. I mean, knowing at least your organizations, how they have mobilized themselves in this period, we are confident that this will happen. And you have not only us in the Secretariat, but look at the screen, and there are many others that will be able to contribute. Well, as we are talking about equipping professionals, I suggest that we go for the next presentation, and then we will make a pause to have also some discussions. And please feel free to put questions or comment in the chat so that we can get back to them after the next presentation. We talked in the overview with the framework of our action streams about providing professionals with the necessary knowledge and skills to provide psychological first aid and trauma-informed practices. And we have carried out 3 cohorts of training of trainers, but also supported some of the country teams through coaching sessions and organized cross-country learning exchanges. One of the countries where the trainings have been rolled out is Romania. And since we've already said how important it is for the frontline workers to be well equipped on how to interact with children that have been in distress and with their caregivers, what kind of routines or activities, how children should be approached in a manner that does not re-traumatize them, but rather provides a lot of calmness and balance in their daily routine. All these things have been crucial for many of the professionals. The training we have carried out has started showing a lot of good results. And for that purpose, we have invited the colleagues in Romania to share some of their insights from already carrying out trainings in the countries, to let us know what were the highlights, what were the challenges, because it is for all of us a learning process, not a learning necessarily that we would have wanted, but a learning that came our way. And it's absolutely important that we attune our plans as we unfold the work in the next period, which again can change. So I will invite now colleagues from the Step-by-Step Center in Romania to share a few of their reflections and also how they would actually recommend, or they would see that such a training could be of use for other countries or other teams that are represented now in the meeting today. I don't know who would like to start, and I would just like to introduce yourself before you start presenting.
Hello to everybody. Thank you for inviting us to talk about training for ECD practitioners on psychological first aid. My name is Cristiana Boca. I am Early Childhood Coordinator in Step-by-Step Romania. And today I am here in my role of training coordinator together with my colleague. I will invite.
Hello, everybody. It's so nice to see you. And also it's so nice to recall some memories from being guest in Ukraine, in the Ukraine that I know from the beginning and in the Ukraine that I hope I will see again at the fully potential. So good luck, our dear friends. My name is Adriana, and I'm the primary step-by-step coordinator in Romania. And in this program, I'm working also as a trainer with the other whole team of trainers.
I will try to share our presentation, if I will may. So I will start saying that the war in Ukraine has an enormous impact on the safety, health, development, and well-being of young children. Both Ukrainian and many other European children are affected by war. Given the large number of refugees who entered in Romania during this period, the Romanian government and civil society mobilized very quickly. The facilities provided by Romanian government, voluntary actions of the entire society were meant to enable a smooth transition and integration process of the Ukrainian families in our country. Through this training for ECD practitioners, ISSA, AMNA, and World Child have joined forces to respond to a specific need, to equip the workforce at the early childhood and for primary level with necessary competencies for approaching refugee children and their families. It was a real help for us, and I wanted to say that the Romanian Education Sub-Working Group, the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, developed an inventory of intervention that can become resources for communities. And now this training for ECD practitioners is listed as one of the intervention to support professionals. And I will invite Adriana to tell us more about the core content about of the training.
Yes, thank you. And we must say that still in these unbelievable times, this training, the foundational training of psychological first aid and trauma-informed practices for young children and their caregivers, with this very well-structured training guide came at the right moment because everybody needs it. And I can remind to all of us that this very useful training is built around 3 building blocks. As we can see in the material that we received from ISSA, we have first block regarding key concepts and guiding principle. The second one is regarding working with distressed children and caregivers. And the third one is regarding managing stress in professionals. So, because it is such a challenging period, having this material on time was really, really useful. And I can remind also the objectives for each block, which all we had in mind when we delivered also the training in our country. So the objectives for the key concepts and guiding principles were 4, and they were regarding understanding and reflecting on the impact of war and conflict on children and their families. Then to understand the different ways in which children can react to a crisis like this. Understand the concept of psychological first aid and why psychological first aid is needed for children. And then become familiar with the guiding principles in working with distressed children and caregivers. And then we can go further to the objectives regarding working with distressed children and caregivers, which were become familiar with AMNA's approach to trauma-sensitive and identity-informed practices. Then time to reflect on key concepts relating to trauma, stress, identities, and healing empowering practices. Because the key concepts, most of them were new and take time to become familiar with them in order to deliver them in a proper way to the practitioners. Another objective were to share tools about creating safe spaces for children and their families, because everybody needs in this time as many as we can to have practices and examples of methods that are working properly with the children coming from crises like in Ukraine. Another objective was practice way of translating knowledge into practice, of course. Then regarding the managing stress in professionals, because everybody gets more stress and different kind of stress than usual, the objectives we had in mind was to learn about self-protection and self-care approaches to prevent overstress and burnout in professionals and other key adults. We must say that both trainers and practitioners that attended our trainings were very well surprised and received very well this kind of thema and item discussed in the training. Then become familiar with ways of recognizing signs of stress in professionals and other key adults, and with ways of managing stress. And the third objective of managing stress in professionals was to understand and discuss ways to overcome language barriers in communicating with children and their caregivers through responsive practice. Even the children have their own way to understand each other, even they don't know the language, the different language they are sharing in a room they stay. We as adults, we really need a way to communicate and to move further on these barriers. So it is really an amazing training guide. And I must say again from the beginning, thank you very much for all of this material and the short time that you developed so we can deliver further on. We can go to the other slide.
Sure. Adriana told us about the original training of trainers. In Romania, we have been in the first cohort in June. This was the starting point for the whole process. And the training resource package, as Adriana said, it was so consistent and so valuable for us. At the beginning, this training package, it was studied individually during August. And however, the precise content, format, and duration of the training have been changed, adapted, and tailored to the needs of specific target group during a series of preparation meetings in our team with our trainers. Starting September, you can see on the slide, our team began to run trainings. And also since September, our team has been supported by ISSA team. ISSA organized 2 learning exchange sessions with countries who are implementing the program. And in addition, colleagues from ISSA provided a coaching session for our team focused on certain topics. We needed some more explanation and to learn more about concept of identity, stereotypes, and biases. Up to date, Romania team delivered 12 training sessions for 450 practitioners. And maybe you ask yourself, how was this possible? And we will tell you how was this possible, because we based on the advantage of having a network of trainers at national level. This was our key starting point, let's say. In original TOT provided by ISSA and partners, participated 10 out of 48 trainers for implementing step-by-step methodology at the national level. Our trainers have had already the experience of being a trainer and the practice of connecting with other professionals. Another important selection criteria was the expertise in working with refugees' children. Since the beginning of the war, the selected trainers have been in the first line because their communities have accommodated a large number of refugees. The experience gained from February until September was strongly capitalized in training sessions. Our trainers work in teams of 2, and maybe it is important to say also that we felt the need to set out different ways in which the trainers support each other. For instance, we created a WhatsApp group for trainers. We conduct some mentoring activities for each session, and also we organize reflection meetings after each training session. Adriana, if you want to add something, please.
Oh, thank you. Yes, as Cristiana told you, having a strong and trained team of trainers in the whole country, it was easy to organize it. And before choosing them, we started putting them questions: how many children, how many refugee children are in their classrooms. So this was the main criteria as we choose these countries where we had trainers working with in this project. Thank you, Cristiana.
Let's go further to see in which counties of Romania we worked for, and what was the specificity of the practitioners trained. And I will say just 2 ideas about the practitioners from early level. Many practitioners from kindergartens have been interested to attend our courses, our sessions. In most kindergartens, Ukrainian children are 1 or 2 per groups, and teachers were very interested to find out ways of overcoming language barriers and also to approach their families. Speaking about overcoming language barriers, in several sessions, Ukrainian volunteers or Ukrainian educators participated alongside the Romanian teachers. And the translation facility at Zoom was also very useful for us to ensure the translation from Romanian to Ukrainian language. Adriana?
It was also interesting that we saw that the migration phenomena is wide above our expectations here in Romania. Thinking of the region we might consider mainly as border neighborhood counties or regions on the way to the Western Europe. I mean that I have been surprised as having teachers, as you see from the south of the country, teachers that are having Ukrainian children in their classrooms. So it was good for us having them in the training, because in the primary classrooms, they had quite a lot children over there. And also it was interesting that we had in this training, in some of these trainings, also teachers coming from the gymnasial, from the secondary school. So they had also children ages more than 12 or 14 years old. So it was very good asking them which one is interesting to participate at the training regarding first of how many, or if they have children coming from the refugees family, in order to have them first of all in the training, because of course we will deliver the training to other teachers that are not having, until now at least, children coming from the refugees family. But mainly we want the teachers that are working with these children to attend the training. So it was a very good insight and a very good participation of them. And they were very well involved in the activities. And that and they recognized that having in mind that also teacher has to take care of himself in order to give the proper education and the proper response to these children is very important. It was a very good kind of thematic planning. So as I said, it was very good for us that it's better to ask who is working with the children than to choose only by ourselves the counties that we include first in this training.
So until now, we covered 30 counties, teachers from 30 counties in 11 online sessions and 1 session face-to-face in Bucharest, and Adriana will tell more about this session in a minute.
Just one thing to say, I would like if you can kind of summarize what is left to be said as we are looking at the time. Yes?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Thank you.
We consider this theme, psychological first aid, as a continuing learning process. So 2 or 3 meetings online or face-to-face have been followed by individual study based on learning resources sent out to the participants. In the following period, each group of practitioners will participate in coaching session on specific topics, and another hours for each group will be allocated to learning exchange, like activities for children and family to support emotional regulation, how to set up a safer space, and so on. We will use the gain experience and expertise in order to strengthen the capacity of early childhood practitioners to provide psychological first aid and to build the ECD learning community. As you may see on the slide, we kept the structure of the training activity, and some part of the training were best received by the practitioners, and you can see it on the slide. And in the same time, participants appreciated also interactive format of the training, different icebreakers that allow participants to get to know each other, to create a feeling of calm and safer place, physical exercises for releasing stress in the body, mindfulness techniques, and also use of case studies.
And here we can see some pictures made in the face-to-face training we conduct with our trainers. And it was some of our preparatory sessions. So the topics was quite new for everybody. And they were so well involved that it gave us a safe feeling for what's going to happen next. So the training took place in Bucharest, and the participated was very, very involved.
There are many lessons learned from the trainer's perspective. For instance, how important it is to take care of ourselves in order to take care of others, to pay more attention to the well-being of the children and on the team, to be more receptive to colleagues sharing their experience, to be a team player, to work well with fellow trainers, and a lot more. And I'm sure that we will learn more in the next coaching and learning sessions. Adriana?
Yeah, and of course, going further on these lessons we've learned and we'll use going on, we have new methods that we really needed. Management of groups, different kind of groups, different kind of age groups, and so on. Example of good practices that we are still working on them. Valuable feedbacks from the participants. They are very different and so valuable, and to capitalize on the knowledge. And the list goes on.
Starting to January, we will come back to our practitioners and our teams of trainers, and we will work further. Thank you very much again for all the resource and all the materials and what we learn together.
Thank you very much.
Open to the questions.
Yes, what to say. Thank you so much to both of you for sharing such a wealth of information about the work that you carried out. It's amazing to see actually this has been achieved in 4 months or 5 months, I would say. So I think that everybody realizes that this has been a kind of a speed up process, but on the other hand, it just showed that there is such a strength in at the ground, and your organization, as many others in the network, have a strong strength, that one of having already on the ground a network of professionals that are ready to strengthen the system, infuse it with the right type of expertise at the right moment. And I think this we have witnessed in this past month in many of the countries where trainers participated in the TOT. I would like now to open the floor and see if there are questions or comments. No, there could be both, that would like to, our colleagues would like to ask or to share, either with the colleagues in Ukraine or with the colleagues in Romania, or if you have any reflection that you would like to share with us. I think that there's been quite some talking from the beginning. So now it's the right time to just share your thoughts or comment on what has been already said, or any clarification that would be needed, or curiosity about the work that our colleagues have shared. Is anybody willing to break the ice? Or you might have been overwhelmed by so much information in many senses, emotionally and cognitively. Yes, Didi, thank you. You might want to unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you. Very inspiring. I did have to join late because I was in the middle of another meeting, but I did want to share something I wasn't ready to, I didn't have it finalized before this meeting, but I just finished a collection of therapeutic stories that's available in English, Russian, and Ukrainian translations, and available for free PDF download. 2 of them are coloring books, and one of them is a collection of stories written by some by me, some by Susan Pero, who is an international expert with therapeutic stories. So I hope it can enhance the work of practitioners that are integrating refugee children.
Wonderful, Didi. Yes, please share with us, because you see, we are, as a hub, we can distribute it and even look for opportunities to translate it in more languages than those that you mentioned. So please do share with us. I think that I'm pretty sure that they will just align very well with everything that we have articulated in our training of trainers. And I have to say, during our sessions with the trainers, they themselves were also very interested in having many hands-on activities or examples of examples of activities that can be used by practitioners right away. So I think that's very much welcome.
I just posted the link into the chat. Okay,
and
thank you.
The same, yes, thank you. And the same goes for other colleagues if they want to share anything that we could, just by hearing what has been already shared in this session. If there are other resources that you think that could be of great support, that could be incorporated in this training package, because it's not a defined one, it's a work in progress. So we are also looking for resources that are aligning well and accompanying well the content of the training. Please feel free to share it with us, and we will find ways of exploiting it further. Cornelia, I saw your hand. Yes, please.
Yeah, well, we did not organize trainings on these particular materials after we had these trainings. We have developed with AMNA support some trainings before, well, it was early May, June, but also on the trauma response and first psychosocial response, so to say, to traumatic experiences. But later on, with other projects that we had with the support of other partners, we gradually incorporated some details from this package, and we submitted another proposal where we entirely plan to use these in training teacher assistants and health assistants in the kindergartens, because all the materials tend to be very interesting and timely to the teachers, not only those who are working with the Ukrainian refugees, but that was the this situation around the humanitarian crisis brought to the front line the need of paying more attention to the psychosocial support in and social-emotional development of children in general, and issues like building resilience and being aware of different kinds of traumatic situations that teachers encounter, be it war-related or not just war-related. So I think the whole issue was really, we had trainings for all teachers from the municipality, and we incorporated their mini cases, enhancing the experience already of our teachers working with the Ukrainian refugee children. And these were like triggers, you know, to discuss such issues as this sensitivity to different traumatic experiences that children come with in the classrooms, and how teachers react, and how to empower them, and how build own, you know, awareness of own needs of the teachers. So I think the whole package and the subject that was brought by this package was really very important, and we will make use of it, as I said, in the coming trainings for sure in the new project. Thank you. Thank you, ISSA.
Thank you, Cornelia. That's what we also have hoped, that it will become a resource that will stay with everyone who's interested in providing support to practitioners, as we see that is so much needed in many of the countries. I would suggest that we move ahead, and then we can catch up again with questions or comments, and feel free to again share them in chat, and we can come back to them after. We will also hear two other countries, two other examples, organizations that have a lot to share from their work. First will be from Poland, from the Comenius Foundation for Child Development, as providing response solutions to the work that is happening in Ukraine. And then we will have colleagues from Armenia who have had older experience, and sadly they will have to use it again and again, it seems, so that they can share also from their experience how they have reacted and what they have developed, and what solutions they have created at the time when the war was in their country. So I will just give the floor now to colleagues in Poland. Ada, just introduce briefly yourselves, and then please go ahead. I'm mindful of the time, so if we can stay to 10 minutes, 12 minutes maximum, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone, my name is Ada Milewska, and this is Magdalena Krakowiak. We represent the Comenius Foundation for Child Development. I am the program coordinator for the project Spinka, and Magda is responsible for the curriculum and also the quality of education in our program. Firstly, we would like to show you a quick video that we've made this year about our spinkas. It's 3 minutes, so we'll show it right now.
Рідний край, красивий, щедрий рідний край. І мова наша
My motherland, generous and beautiful, and our language is so melodic. Let's respect it. Let's save it.
Program Spinka to program wzajemnego wsparcia i oparcia i łączenia dzieci, które przybyły do nas z Ukrainy, ich matek w Polsce, środowiska, w jakim teraz żyją. Dzieci, które tutaj są pozbawione swojego naturalnego środowiska. My w ramach naszego programu próbujemy stworzyć takie środowisko, w którym będą się czuły dobrze, bezpiecznie, będą szczęśliwe, będą się rozwijać, będą chciały się uczyć, a ich rodzice będą mieli pewność, że to jest dobre miejsce. W tej chwili mamy już 30 takich punktów w Polsce. Do końca października mamy głęboką nadzieję i proszę trzymać za nas kciuki. Będziemy mieli 100 spynek w Polsce i to będzie chyba jedna z ważniejszих misji, jaką nasza Fundacja Rozwoju Dzieci realizuje od prawie 20 lat.
Для дитини важливо не тільки бути просто особистістю, а важливо ще так само бути членом суспільства. Ми всі живемо серед людей і нам потрібно все одно всім комунікувати між собою, спілкуватися. І це для цього необхідні певні навички. Цих навичок ми здобуваємо у спілкуванні з іншими людьми. А дітям важливо спілкуватися так само з ровесниками, зі своїми дітьми. Тут, коли ми перебуваємо в Польщі, це ускладнюється тим, що ми не знаємо мови. І, власне, коли ми перебуваємо в групі, коли діти перебувають в групі україномовних дітей, це дає їм можливість здобути ті навички, які їм необхідні для подальшого майбутнього.
Я привела свого сину до цієї групи, тому що вона україномовна, і для мене вкрай важливо, щоб мій син спілкувався зі своїми однолітками на українській мові тут, у Польщі. Ну, звісно, були якісь сумніви, як у кожної матусі, але з перших хвилин я зрозуміла, що мій син тут буде у безпеці, йому буде тут цікаво та інтересно.
Наша дитина так себе десь адаптовує в суспільстві, він такий, значить, зовсім став інакший, не є такий капризний, скажімо так, має діти енергію, так, свою, плюс є розвиток.
Де чекає цього, наприклад, понеділку, після вікенду, після вихідного. І бачу зміни такі, що дитина, наприклад, скажімо, він починає самостійно їсти, якось краще бавиться, спокійніше і так далі. Однозначно, це дуже добре, що є садик і дитина має з ким побавитись, скажімо, свій час провести з друзями, однолітками.
So as you could see on the video, what is important for us and what was important from the very beginning was that we wanted to create a project which provides high quality education and is completely a holistic child-oriented program, which means that we want that kind of participatory approach, which means that children have an impact on what's happening around them, on what's happening in their curriculum, their daily routine. And it is very important for us to respond to the needs and suggestions, not only from the educators, but from the children and the educators working with us as well. And at the beginning of the war and as of March 2022, we saw that mothers who were coming to Poland needed childcare and children needed a place, a safe place that they can stay. That's why we created this project, so we have a solution to both of these things. We started to open centers for Ukrainian refugees all over Poland. We call them spinkas. These are child-friendly space where children aged 1 to 6 can get free childcare every day from Monday to Friday, every week. We as a foundation are fully equipping those places, providing things such as art supplies, games, books, toys, etc. And in every spinka, which opened for more than 5 hours a day, when children can spend more than 5 hours a day, we provide hot meals for everyone. And of course, we want children to feel safe and comfortable. Every child has to go through the process of adaptation, which is very important, not only for children, but for the parents as well. So they can get to know the educators, get to know the space, and feel as safe as possible in there. And of course, we want parents to be involved in the process, to know the educators that work with their children. This is very important because we want parents to feel safe as well. And as for the educators, we as a foundation train our educators. They're mostly Ukrainian. 90% of our educators working in spinkas are Ukrainian. They go through 160 hours of training, which is provided by trainers and translators all over Poland. They get a certificate which qualifies them to work as caregivers in early childhood education system in Poland. So they can work not only in our spinkas, but as I said, all over Poland in a system. As for the space and what is important, working with local governments and municipalities, for us, this connection is very important because we get space for our project, for our centers for children from local governments, from the municipalities. We partnership with them so we can create something together. We can help to create a system, and then municipalities or local governments can take over and make it work for as long as possible. And of course, if it's not possible to find a place or sign a cooperation agreement, then we have to sign a rental agreement, of course, and then we have to pay for it. So for us, this working with local governments and municipalities is really crucial. And of course, last but not least, about the spinka itself, we know that it is very important to provide psychological support, not only for children, but for parents, for caregivers as well. We believe that it is crucial in order for refugees to be able to build a healthy life in our community, in our country. And I would like to mention that in Poland, compulsory education begins at the age of 6. So the government hasn't focused on the early childhood care and education as much as on the schooling system. So for the most part, they've left this part of education to the humanitarian organizations, and humanitarian organizations are taking over and helping the government to create. We were at first, at the beginning, our spinkas were non-formal. We're in the process of registering them in the Polish system, but the government said to the local municipalities that they should deal with it. So we had to take over. We had to partner with local municipalities and with local governments, and governments, of course, they had to balance refugees and local communities, and they want to partner with us because we can create infrastructures and then it can go on for longer. And what I would like to say, our goal for the future, what we would really want to see is to train caregivers who can go back to their countries, not only in Poland, and then help us creating the system there. And you may ask, what's next? What's going to happen after we as a foundation carry the project Spinka? For the past 20 years, Comenius Foundation created 100 programs for early childhood care and education. And in 1 or 2, 3 years, we handed them over to the local governments, to the municipalities. We've seen it work, and we know that it's possible right now. So we would really like to create a program that we can spread all over the world. And yeah. Thank you so much for hearing us, and I believe that what we're doing is very important. And thank you, ISSA, for the opportunity to share our work and everything. This is very important, and thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Ada. I think we are all so proud of hearing you and all the other organizations who have been so busy lately, not only to provide, as I said, a short-term response, but also how we contribute to making our systems in the countries being more flexible and easy to adapt and absorb those kind of quality solutions that can bring the results that we all expect. Children that continue to develop, continue to learn, continue to play, even though they have been totally uprooted, let's say. I think this is so important for all of us to understand that it's not just about having a quick fix and a quick reaction. It's more about how we can embed solutions that can strengthen the systems, but also how we can put all our expertise and experience to good work in that sense. Comenius Foundation is another example of an organization that is well established and has all the equipment needed in terms of knowledge and expertise to provide this kind of solutions. And we heard the Step-by-Step Center in Romania also having given an example of a well-established network of capacity building at the country level, and not less the work that has been done by the colleagues in Ukraine that are also very well equipped with networks that they have on the ground in a very difficult context, trying to empower practitioners and caregivers to provide that kind of support that is needed in even more dire contexts. It's time now to hear also thank you so much, Ada. And again, congratulations to you as to all the other colleagues that spoke before. I think it's so inspiring what you've said. The fact that there is a focus on the municipality level, but also in trying to provide a lot of support to not only children, but also caregivers. So we just heard that. And I think another thing and I will continue then with colleagues in Armenia, another thing that kind of came out of the discussions of the presentations today is also how we involve the Ukrainian professionals, those that are in the country where you are providing such kind of services, and how this will be a very sound investment in the rebuilding of the system in Ukraine. We know that there are lots of experts there, and we have some that today participated, but we know that there are many of them that are waiting to go home, and having them participate, being part of the solution in the countries means a lot on their experience that they will bring back. Let's hear now also from the colleagues in Armenia who graciously accepted to share their experience, what they can add to the list of such rich resources and expertise that we can tap into our network. Marin, just a few words about yourselves, and feel free to share your learnings. If you unmute yourself, it will be wonderful. Even unmuted, there's something wrong with your microphone, or no, we don't hear you. It might be a question of setting. No, not yet. No, I think that there was an attempt, but there might be some problems with your microphone. Yes, we'll wait. In the meantime, if there are other comments that anybody would like to share while we are finding a solution.
Sorry for inconvenience. We will change computers and Marina will present from my computer. Just give us a minute.
Yes, sure, Ashkan. Thank you so much. Just to say, I think that there could be many other organizations that could share many of their experiences. Time has been limited, and we've just tried to compress in the time that we have allocated some of those that could just show interventions that actually are referring to different components of the solutions that could be offered. One that is related to capacity building, another one that is related to provide service provision, and we saw that in both in Ukraine and in Poland. Some that are related to enabling local authorities to provide to be able to provide a response that is aligned and attuned with the needs of the families and their caregivers. And more there will be perhaps in the next sessions tomorrow opportunities for colleagues to share, even though it's not under the umbrella of the ISSA Connects for Ukraine. But this work can be put under many umbrellas, even working with very vulnerable, children and families. Working with refugee is part of the larger category of the vulnerable. They are vulnerable in vulnerable. They are vulnerable groups in the most vulnerable. So I think that we can have more than 2 hours to discuss about the work that has been carried out by many of our organizations. Yes, Marin, I think that now you are.
You can hear me now?
You've been in the office together with Ashken. Yes,
yeah.
We hear you well. Yes.
So good morning or good evening
for
to
the time
everybody.
being, you're Ashken.
Yeah. So we are a team. It was so
a great team.
Yeah. Thank you. It's so inspiring to see the impact of ISSA Network and that what it changed in the lives of families, especially in the times of crisis, so that the experience we have gained over the years we can use for helping people and families. Can I have a chance for sharing my very short presentation? Can you see my screen?
Yes, we see it.
So I will talk a little bit about our experience about the crisis, about the war in Nagorno-Karabakh, which is a place populated by Armenians. And when the war started in 2020, so of course, it's always unexpected that people are not ready and are not prepared for that. And what happened to many families, they immediately left their houses with their children, with just what they have with them. So they were not prepared for that. And these internally displaced families were placed in bordered regions, very spontaneous, and the first days it was not organized, and even we do not have any information where how much families were placed. And UNICEF have a fast response programs, and they approached us for organizing these temporary early learning shelters, corners in those places of Armenia where internally displaced families were placed. And I want to once again emphasize the high reputation of step by step in the whole Armenia, that all the information and data regarding the refugees and their location was immediately provided to step by step through municipalities, to regional authorities, because in all the places step by step have a very high reputation. Even international organizations have difficulty to access this information. So we have all this information, and I will talk about very shortly about the steps. These are children where they have already finished 3 months of so-called education. So they have the performance and they have prepared these masks. So what were the goals of our project? First, to create safe temporary learning spaces. For this purpose, we selected both kindergartens, some centers, developmental centers. We have placed these shelters also in hotels, in places where there were hotels for this time. So in different places, we have established 11 centers, 11 early learning corners. The second, our action was we have these kits, early learning kits, were very rich and very colorful kits with books, with toys, with other learning materials. And parallelly, our groups of trainers created thematic units with lots of activities, mainly outdoor activities and indoor activities with active child participation. Our next step was to train both local facilitators, and our project has goal also to train internally displaced parents, mainly mothers, because all the men were in the war. Excuse me? Okay, let me. You see now the screen?
Yes, Marina, we see it. If you can put it on full screen, it would be perhaps even better. Colleagues.
Full screen?
Yes, if you can put the full screen. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so we trained both local facilitators and matched them with mothers in order, so this has several purposes. First of all, parents can get the second training or chance for work, and also for psychological support to work with groups, to work in pair with educators in order to overcome the stress and depression that they had over this period. Also, we have a mentoring component. So our mentors go to all these sites. They co-teach with facilitators, and also they work with parents. They involve them in teaching activities. So the final goal was to organize preschool services for children of internally displaced families. Here you can see some photos of preschool where children are involved in different activities. And what was interesting that, so we work with one facilitator from kindergarten, but the whole staff voluntarily was involved in this, in the project. So they do different performances for children. They organized dance clubs for children, which was not planned in the project. They do puppet shows and different things, so which were not planned in the project. So it was kind of mobilization of communities. So here are the steps of our project. I have already talked about that. So developing teaching materials, identifying locations of shelters. This was difficult because population, internally displaced population were moving from place to place. So during the project implementation, with several times we changed the locations. Also provision of educational kits, training of educators and mothers, and we have ongoing trainings. We have both face-to-face trainings and have Zoom trainings with mothers and with our facilitators. So we have established 11 early learning corners. These are the sites, Jermuk, Tsahkadzor, Dilijan, Sevan, where the corners were set up. So this was changed several times. We have trained facilitators and mothers, and about 150 children received services. What was interesting that we were we have planned to work with preschool children, but it turned that in several shelters we worked also with school-age children, because families were in stress and they were depressed, and they even did not work to send their children to school. In many places, Ashram worked with families in order to organize their transportation to school so that children will not miss the education. We have outlined some challenges. I talked about population movement. In some places, for example, in Dilijan, parents even don't want to bring children to these places because they want to just close their room and stay in these hotel rooms, not want to go out. During the first weeks, even they don't come to pick up the children, so our educators go to parents and talk with them, and then ask them and offer them to walk together, to talk together. And also we have difficulties with transportation because there was mobilization and men were in war. We have kind of summed up our project and what were the success factors, because the project was very successful. It has a great impact. First of all, our close cooperation with local authorities. Active SBS network. This was one of the strongest arguments. Our trained teachers, our institutions, after the first call, they all responded very quickly and eagerly. So they participated in all the different activities, started developing training modules, starting developing these thematic teaching packages, and also working with families. The project was very flexible. During the implementation, we have changed it several times. And also we used resources of step-by-step kindergartens. This is a team of Jermuk kindergarten. They have performed for children. This is in a hotel of Central Bank in Dilijan. And also we have a component that a psychologist were working with both children and mothers. So they help children to overcome their stress, and also with families. Many outdoor activities were organized. And this is a mother. You can see this is a mother and this is a teacher. So they involved mothers in the activities. So I tried to be very...
Yes, Ms. Marine, you've been fantastic. I think that you've just captured the essence of the work, which everybody may understand that it has not been that as easy as your presentation has been.
Yeah, it was not easy, both emotionally and in the terms of organization. And UNICEF also allowed us to be feel flexible because the situation was not standard.
Exactly. I think that's one feature that we also encounter in all the work that we are doing. Flexibility is the word of order, I would say, because it is something that the context in which we are operating is very fluid. In many of the countries, many of our members were saying, we don't know. I mean, the number of children participating even in activities is fluctuating from one day to another. You never know if they are still going to be in the city for how long they will be there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of uncertainty, and which requires to be always alert in what kind of reaction or what kind of approach you should have to the way that the program is conceived. On the other hand, the families themselves, you mentioned that, and I think it was also in other countries, the feeling of safety and security is the most important one.
Yeah.
How much they want to leave children without them, the caregivers, adults, how safe they feel that the children are in the places where they would go. It's a process. And they feel quite a resistant sometimes because of how quickly the context changes and the uncertainty that they themselves feel. I think it was inspirational to see, if you were not saying that you have done this in Armenia for another conflict, I think that we could have thought that you have done it in the context of the war that is in Ukraine. I think that it's so similar, but the other thing that I find very similar is the strength that you also stays in your organization, the fact that you have an infrastructure of expertise and capacity that can be so easily activated when there is need for it to mobilize. And I think that that's what we have seen in all the 4 examples today. We talked about the power of ISSA Network, but it's the same, the power of your country network.
Step-by-step network, right?
Yes, step-by-step networks that have been, let's say, the foundation of everything that has been created today in ISSA on one hand, but also it's a legacy that it's so strong and showed how resilient made your organizations as long as those network has been nurtured and empowered throughout the years. I'm looking at the time and I'm very mindful of everybody's time, and I know that there are some colleagues that did not afford to stay until the very end, and we know it's a very busy time of the year. If there are, however, I think that there's been such rich information that has been shared, and not only the passion and experiences that you have shared with us today have shown that there's a lot that we can do together, and there's much that we can learn from each other. However, if there are comments that anybody would like to share at the very end, we saw some of them in the chat, and we thank very much colleagues for doing that.
May I
yes.
ask one thought also? I talked about Jermuk, which is the bordered region with Azerbaijan, which we have with this armed conflict. So recently in September, they have attacked also our borders. And these sites in Jermuk, they have already this professional capacity. So in shelters in this September, they also organize these learning centers for children, because they already have this experience and they have these resources. So now with UNICEF, we are going to expand this experience. So we will have this capacity in other countries, in other cities also.
Wonderful. It's what Liana was mentioning at the very beginning, the muscle memory, you know, it's like something that is already there. It just is activated in the moment that is so much needed. And I think that puts you in a privileged position to be amongst the first to provide, not only that you provide a quick reaction, but you provide an already evidence-based that it worked, because it has been already done previously. Any other comment that will come from the colleagues who participated? I know that everybody is looking at the watch and thinking that we should close the meeting. Yes, everybody's very proud of everything. Just a little comment to what also Donar Fertlip mentioned. It's true there are many types of children when we talk about the refugees or internally displaced with different needs. And it's not that we did somehow overlooked the many vulnerabilities that exist within this vulnerable group. It's only that there will be so much to talk. And I think that's one of the reasons that we have initiated ways in which we can get together and perhaps unpack many of the issues that could be discussed, which is around the professionals, around the different needs of children, about how we work with municipalities, about the quality of service provision. So there could be so many things that we could discuss. Today, we just kind of wanted to feature what's happening in the network, how our members have been very active in the past month. And then this showing that there's much that we can continue learning from each other so that we can become even stronger in the programs that we are providing, and perhaps even have more resources or find ways in which we can share resources that have been proven to be very effective. Can we share the last slide, please? Because I think it's time just to say how we can engage further. We discussed, colleagues from Romania shared a bit about the training of trainers we conducted since June. And we are planning to organize such a training of trainers for all ISSA members so that all the access to the resources that have been created will be granted to all of those who have been trained. So that's something that it's in the making. We will decide a date and we will share it with everybody in the network who would be interested. And I'm thinking that there could be many of the resources that could be useful for other countries and other members, especially if we look not only on the short term, but on the medium term. And the other opportunities that we see, I was already mentioning, you can go to the other slide, is to engage in peer learning activities. We started already a PLA on this. It was an introduction one, and we created a Teams channel where such resources can be shared. And also we plan to announce a new meeting, and that one will be more thematic focused on issues that are related to how we can create quality solutions that are sustainable and also contribute to strengthening the system at the local level, particularly. But on the other hand, there are some resources that are free access, and the ones that I already mentioned on the screen, the building bridges. This has been developed through the work that we have been involved together with UNICEF when the refugees from Syria reached European countries. And this has been a guidebook created with activities for practitioners to organize for preschool, early childhood, early age, let's say, children in camps or shelters or refugee centers. So many of those activities can be easily adapted and used. And actually, it's an expertise that has been exploited in the training of trainers through our colleague Zorica Trikic, that has been the author, coordinated the development of the guidebook, as well as the activity cards, which we know they are very much valued by practitioners. Sometimes they don't have enough time, especially in this very tense period and overwhelming, to read too much, but rather to have a good training, let's say, and then to get inspiration from quick to be scanned, we say, resources that are so easy to be adapted to their own context in the settings, be them formal or non-formal. Let's play activity cards. Both of them can be found on our ISSA Knowledge Hub. Colleagues in the communications are already showing, and on our support for Ukraine page. These are just the examples of how we can share as quickly as possible things that have been developed, but for sure this is work in progress, and we will create more opportunities for all our members to connect and learn more from each other, but also to co-create resources that can be used by other organizations dealing with the same challenges, members or not necessarily members. I think this also stays as a strength of our network. And last but not least, as time is running out, we still have 2 events for tomorrow and another one on Friday. So for those of you who participated today, we hope that there will be other topics that you would be interested to contribute to or to learn from on tomorrow in the 2 sessions on ISSA Connects for sharing. This session will feature different resources, tools, approaches that have been created either by ISSA members or ISSA Secretariat under different types of initiatives and programs. So it will be a session dedicated to sharing. And also, of course, discussing around different topics that will be, it's a variety of topics. So tomorrow it's really in the 3 parallel sessions, there will be different types of topics addressed. But in the afternoon, there will be more thematic focus. There will be 3 themes that will be addressed. One is about innovative approaches in service and pre-service training of early childhood professionals. The second will be on cross-sectoral cooperation, and the third one will be on social inclusion, effectiveness of social inclusion programs. So we kindly invite you to come tomorrow again and continue to share and to learn from peers in the network. And on the 9th of December, we have a special event, ISSA Connects, to celebrate the 10 years of Romania ISSA Network initiative. And it will be quite a rich event in terms of featuring the achievements, looking at past, looking at what happened lately in the initiative, but also what are the next steps that the initiative should take for the next year, as it has been at the core of our work, the focus on perhaps one of the very few organizations that internationally at the European level that focuses on Romani early years. We thank you so much for your participation. We hope that you come you have taken something that is valuable from the session, and that will enrich your thinking, your reflection, and your programs also. There's much that we can still learn also from the implementation, and this is something that we will continue doing. ISSA will continue to be a platform for such kind of exchanges. What do we are so glad that colleagues from Ukraine could participate. We think of them always, and I'm pretty sure that they have been also happy to see that their co-nationals have been involved in activities, and they have seen smiles on Ukrainian children's faces in the short video that was presented by our colleagues in Poland. There's much quality work going on, and much still to be done. Thank you to everyone, and hopefully we will see each other tomorrow. Sorry, today, no. I think for today, it's the day is closed. And don't forget to stay in touch with us on the social media and to visit our website also. We update it with resources as well as with events. Thank you to everybody who contributed from Ukraine, from Romania, from Poland, and from Armenia. So graciously and generous. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes, have a good evening. And for some it will be good night. Thank you.